It's not easy to be a Christian. It's hard, right? We all know that. I always tell the kids at school, it's not easy to be good, is it? Not easy to do what mom and dad tells me to do. But I always tell them, us big kids, we struggle with that too. It's not easy to be good. It's not easy to be obedient and submit my will to the will of God. Why is that? Because there's something in me that has to die to do that. I have to make some form of sacrifice to do that. And that's why it's difficult for us to be Christians. It's not easy to be Christians. It's very sacrificial. Very sacrificial for the young people to get up this morning and go to church when maybe you don't feel like going to church. Right? I know you're out there. I know you're out there. Maybe even some of the big kids here did want to come today. I don't know. But that's why I think a lot of people don't come. They're busy, and maybe they don't want to make that sacrifice. I don't know. But Jesus knows it's not easy. And that's why he's telling his disciples in today's gospel, he's telling us, his disciples, this message is for all disciples of every age. Jesus is about to go to his death. And he knows that he better wrap up the final messages, instructions to these men before he goes, because once he goes to the crucifixion, he knows all hell literally is going to break loose on him, and that their world is going to be turned upside down, and that the evil one's going to have his hour. But God has his day, right? He has his hour, but God has his day. And he's praying for them. How comforting is to know that Jesus is the intercessor of all intercessors. Jesus sits at the right hand of God the Father. He just doesn't sit up there doing this, Well, I hope they make it down there. They look like they're struggling. Poor little guys. No, he's up there because he's God. God is constantly active. He's praying. He's interceding for his sons and daughters. The Father's always praying and interceding for his sons and daughters. Through Jesus, by the power of the Spirit, he's always interceding. And he does this through his church, through us. What is he praying for specifically today in John 17? He's praying for 4 things. He's praying that they be one. Why is that important? Because we're divided. Look at our country. Look at our church. It's nothing new, right? Look at the United States today. We have never been so divided since the Civil War. We got people fighting each other, divided over masks and vaccinations, and we're fighting and we're doing all. And Satan's just sitting back going, yes, I got them right where I want them. I want them fighting each other. I want them to hate each other. I want to divide their marriages and their families. I want people to hold on to grudges and all kinds of things that divide us. Divide and conquer, right? That's his battle cry. Satan's battle cry, divide and conquer. He wants to conquer you. He wants to destroy every one of you in here. That Satan hates every one of you in here with his whole being. And he's doing everything he can to destroy your marriage, your family, our societies, everything. And he does it primarily what? How? Through temptations. Through the flesh, the things of the flesh and the things of this world that this world offers us that is contrary to our faith, right? You and I are constantly being pulled left and right. We're constantly have things pulling on us that are not from God. And this is why Jesus is praying. He's praying that we be one. In other words, he's praying that we can hold it together and not be tempted to run and give ourselves over to the things of this world that are contrary to him and his teachings. Secondly, he's praying that we persevere. Boy, do we need grace to persevere, right? Parents, need some perseverance? It's hard, isn't it? He's praying that we as disciples can persevere through the tough times. Thirdly, he's praying that we come to know his joy. A joy that we can know even in the face of tremendous struggle. A joy that this world cannot give you. It's a joy that's not based on circumstances. It's based on my relationship with Jesus. So it's a joy I can know in the midst of great storms if I just keep my eyes on him. And then fourthly, he prays for our holiness, that we can remain holy in the midst of tremendous struggle and temptation. But he's always praying this for us. You and I have an intercessor, and all those united with him in heaven, all the saints, all your loved ones that are with him, we have the largest fan base in the world. They're cheering us on. They're interceding for us. They're praying for us. That's pretty exciting, isn't it? No. This is 11 o'clock mass, isn't it? You guys look like you're still asleep. Yeah, we have people, he's praying for us. He knows it's hard. He's been there. He's got the T-shirt. Look. And he's telling us in the gospel today, look what he says. He says, Father, he's talking to his Father, right? He's having this conversation he always has with it. He says, Father, they don't belong to the world any more than I belong to this world. And the world he's speaking about is not the created world. God created the world, and he said it's good. He's not talking about that. When he says the world, he means everything that's in this world that is contrary to Jesus and the gospel. We call it worldliness. There's a little bit of worldliness in me and all of us that we struggle with we know that's contrary to our faith, right? That's pulling us away from God constantly. He says they don't belong to the world any more than I belong to the world. Consecrate them in the truth. Your word is truth. He says consecrate them. What does that word mean? Consecrate means set them apart. And when were you set apart from this world? At your baptism. The word holy means to be set apart. This altar was consecrated. It was set apart for a sacred purpose. In other words, we wouldn't hold dance lessons on that altar. I wouldn't do it. I'd be looking up the... We're not going to use these vessels back here for Fruit Loops and milk. I wouldn't do that. These vessels have been consecrated. They've been set apart for a sacred purpose. You have been set apart for a sacred purpose in this world. And what's that purpose? To give witness to the truth. Jesus says before Pilate, remember when he was on trial? And he reminds us time and time again in the Gospels, Jesus reminds us, if the world hates you, remember, it first hated me. In other words, whatever I went through, you're going to go through it too. That is, if you follow me. Now, you can conform to the world and play it safe, and that's what we do sometimes. We conform to the world, and we don't look any different than the world. We can be Catholic by name, but does our lifestyle even look any different than theirs, right? We're not perfect. None of us are. We're working at this. We don't belong to this world. And when we really follow Jesus and we did as he did, he told Pilate, for this reason I was born. For this reason, he's telling Pilate, hey man, this is why I'm here. Just to give witness to the truth. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and life. He's basically telling Pilate, you're looking at truth. And sometimes we don't want to look at truth, do we? Sometimes the truth hurts, right? Sometimes I don't want to look at the truth about myself because it's kind of humiliating. Sometimes I don't want to admit the truth because that might mean I have to change my life. And I don't want to change my life because I kind of like my lifestyle, even though it's contrary to the faith sometimes, right? And this is why we're born. So Jesus, why is he praying for us? Because he knows if we're truly witnesses to the truth, you're going to pay a price for that. Look at our society today. Look at the United States today. Look at the people who are trying to give witness to what's true, to what's right. Some people call it the cancel culture. Yeah, you stand up for what's right, you stand up for what's truth, you're going to get canceled on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. It's happening all the time, every day. As I'm speaking right now, people are getting canceled because they're being bold enough to speak the truth. And when we speak the truth, we stand up for the truth. We stand up for a person, not some principle. Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. The truth is a divine person. When we stand up for the truth, we stand up for Jesus, just like he stands up for us. Look how he stood. Look at that. Look how he stood up for you and me. He didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that. He chose to do that. Why? Because he's so in love with you. It says in the Bible that even though we were in sin, he died for us. In other words, even though we didn't deserve it, he died for us. Why? Because he loves you. And he knows if he didn't defend you, you and I right now would be living in hell on earth. And so this is why he's praying for us, because he knows if we're going to really be Catholic, and we're really going to just, we don't need more Catholics. We need Catholics who are going to walk the talk and not just say, I'm Catholic by name. And that's not easy, is it? It's not easy for me to preach this stuff. It's easy to preach this, but to live it's another thing, right? Because you may lose a job if you really stand up for what's true and right. You may not get elected to office, right? Our so-called Catholic politicians, I'm not going to name names, you know who they are, right? Making some of you feel uncomfortable, I know. But the truth makes us uncomfortable. It should make us uncomfortable. That might be the problem in our world today. We got kids here, I almost said something. We're too darn comfortable. And we're being lied to left and right, and we're just buying into it. Bait and sinker. We're just hook and sinker. We're just bite right into it. Well, yeah, the rest of the world's doing it. Let's just go ahead and do it. No, Jesus says you've been set apart. You don't belong to this world. And the world doesn't tolerate people that don't belong to it. As long as you live the way of the world, you're fine. That's why we're given into the world, because it's just easier. But if you truly live as a Catholic and you live up to the teaching of the faith and you speak out on YouTube or Facebook and you speak the truth, I know you're out there. Some of you are like, man, I want to say this, but God, I may get a lot of flack on that one. He knows all about flack. So this is why he prays for us. We're not alone in this battle. We are in, if you don't know this yet, I'm going to tell you, newsflash. We are in a spiritual warfare. Satan is having his hour. Seems like his months, right? Satan is turning it up, and he's just pulling out all the stops because he knows his time is short. And he's got a lot of people buying into what he's doing. And how is he doing it? He's doing it through movements. I'll call them movements. Let's just say that there's movements in our country. There's good movements and there's bad movements. And that's what we have to discern. What is of God and what is not of God? Jesus loves you. He knows it's hard because he's inside of you. He's in your bodies. He suffers everything you suffer. He rejoices in everything you rejoice. He has incarnated himself in your body. He's with you. And Jesus says, the gates of hell shall not prevail. So sometimes people come up to me and they get all caught up in the news, and I say, just don't watch too much of that stuff. Because the media is created, they got to sell, right? They're not going to give you boring stuff. They're going to give you stuff that's going to sell. They like to stir up the pot. And a lot of what we're getting today through our media is propaganda. It's not truth. I just made a lot of people mad right there, didn't I? It's true. It's both sides, too. But you and I have to kind of sift through all that and know where to get the truth. It's hard to find the truth. That's why he established the church on earth, is we are to be the light to the nations. We are called to be ambassadors of truth. He's looking for men and women who are willing to be witnesses with him to the truth and who are willing to pay the price. Because that's the only way we're going to get out of this mess we're in, is the truth. I was watching a documentary. I don't know if you've seen this documentary. It's called Social Dilemma. Is that what it's called? Any of y'all watch that? .org? Is that what it's called? Social Dilemma? It's about the social media. And these are all former CEOs, executives, high-ups in the big tech world, right? These are men and women, young people. I call them young. They're 30s, 40s. That's young. And these are former people in that business, and they got out of it because they saw and they knew deep down a lot of what they were doing was not by accident. They were doing it to divide this country, and they've done a great job of it, and they got out of it. And they were going through this documentary, and it was kind of depressing watching. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, how are we going to get out of this? And finally, this guy at the very end, none of them ever mentioned God, but he said this at the very end. This guy says, and they've started a new movement now to expose the things that are going on in social media that are not of God. And this guy at the very end, the guy says, well, you don't give us much hope. How do we get out of this mess we're in, this country? And he looked right in the camera. He said, it's the truth. The truth is the way out. And that's what Jesus is saying. I am the way. I'm the truth. I'm the life. It's going to be Jesus Christ and those who are willing to follow him and lay it all down that's going to get us out of this mess.